What's up, guys? Welcome back to AppleTechTalks, and today we're going to be talking about my initial impressions on WWDC, the future of iPad Pro, whether that's going to be a laptop replacement or not, the top 3 features you can very surely expect in the iPhone 7 coming this fall, and finally iOS 11 wishlist. And I'll explain why I'm doing this really early, but yeah, that's pretty much what we're going to do today. Let's go. Alright, so let's start with WWDC 2016 initial impressions. So, overall, I'm very satisfied with the event, mostly because of macOS Sierra and iOS 10. But, we also got watchOS 3, we got tvOS, some minor improvements, but still good. And then, like I mentioned, macOS Sierra, iOS 10, and we also got Swift Playground, which I don't care for, but it was in the event. So let's start off with watchOS 3. So new features that are coming to watchOS 3 include much faster accelerated performance when you open an app on your watch, which for many users is, it's actually a reason to buy or start using an Apple Watch, because part of the reason why people weren't using it as often anymore was because it took so long to open the app that it was just more time efficient to just use your iPhone. So yeah, it's 3 times as fast, I think, on the watchOS 3. So it's a welcome improvement. Other improvements include control center, so you can get a quick toggles like airplane mode. I don't remember the other things on it, but yeah, airplane mode, things like that, quick toggles. There's also now a dock, as Apple calls it, and the bottom button below the digital crown is now used to be instead of getting at your contacts, it actually gets at this nice overview of all your open apps in the watch, which you can flip through and choose a different one. So I guess, yeah, it makes sense, but I actually liked it better when they had the contacts there. I don't know why, I really thought that contacts feature was more useful. Maybe they could have implemented the access to the dock differently on the Apple Watch. Anyway, what else do we get? So those are pretty much all the things on watchOS 3. We also get some new Apple Watch faces, which is, yeah, again, welcome. We get Minnie Mouse, we get, there's like the simplified face that should be interesting. We also have, enhanced activity app, which is basically, so Apple is falling behind a little bit in terms of the fitness tracker. So what they're doing is they're adding some support for it so that you can be with your friends and compare with your friends your fitness. So yeah, that's a welcome change. We also get fitness for wheelchair users. Just for them, we get more details such as distance, pace, active calories, heart rate, and elapsed time all at once on the screen. You also get this breathing app, which is kind of weird, but it's actually, it says here, the new Breathe app guides you through a series of deep breaths that can help you better manage everyday stress or just experience a few calming moments. So sort of like yoga, I guess. Messages. Now you can set up fireworks, it says. You can have stickers, things like that. You can also home enabled settings are coming to the Apple Watch, so you can actually start doing that now. There's a quick SOS way for you to make emergency calls. Apple Pay within apps. Use it to unlock your Mac if it's locked with a passcode. And yeah, that's pretty much it. Now next, I'm going to go over tvOS really briefly because I don't currently own an Apple TV 4, which kind of makes me not very interested in tvOS, but anyway, let's just go over that really quickly. So tvOS, the new improvements are just some enhancements to Siri. You can just ask it a couple more things. It says on Apple's website exactly what you can ask Siri that's new. What else is there? There's also a feature called single sign-in, which means you can sign in on one app with your subscription credentials and then get that subscription account on all of your apps, so that you don't have to individually sign in per app, which I think is actually pretty interesting. There's now a dark mode, and okay, when I saw this is before they announced iOS 10, so I was like, okay, that's a completely guaranteed that they're going to have a dark mode in iOS 10, but nope, we didn't get that yet. Next, we have some enhancements to photos that are inspired from iOS 10's layout, as well as for Apple Music. There's now an app on your iPhone, so you can control your Apple TV that way if you don't like the remote for some strange reason. You can adjust the temperature from your couch or dim the lights or something like that. So that's just HomeKit enabled Apple TV now, which is interesting, and yeah, they're pushing for the future there. So also, if you download an app on your phone now, you will get it on your Apple TV immediately. There's no extra, sort of installation you have to do on your Apple TV. It just automatically appears once you install it on your iPhone, so that's good. And then there's some new APIs that developers have more tools to create apps that will make your TV, more useful and more entertaining. So yeah, that's pretty much it for tvOS. Alright, next let's move on to Mac OS Sierra. So Mac OS Sierra is pretty much a release for Mac, which has been changed from OS 10 to Mac OS. I actually like the naming scheme a little bit more, makes it a little bit cleaner. And I like the name Sierra. I was not a big fan of the naming scheme for El Capitan, but I'm glad they changed it. I'm just not a big fan of like two words in the name. I just wish it was just one word, which it is this year, so that's good. Sierra, the main focus of it is Siri integration. Siri integration. But the thing is, they didn't innovate here. They just basically plopped the Siri straight from the iPhone onto the Mac, and there's literally nothing new about Siri. The only new thing is that so when you tell it to do something, it will not beep again and then answer. It will just there will be no beep. It'll just answer right away, which makes it a little bit more human-like. But again, nothing really new, nothing you haven't seen before in Siri. Besides Siri, there's now picture-in-picture support, meaning that you can be watching a video on Safari or something, or Chrome or whatever, and then you can, I'm not sure if it works on Chrome, but Safari, then you can scale it down to a little picture-in-picture. You can resize it. It's similar to like the iPad multitasking from iOS 9. You can resize the pip, and you can move it around wherever you want, and then watch a video while you're working, which actually I really, really wanted this last in El Capitan, and I don't know why they didn't do it, because like if I wanted to watch a video while doing some work or something like that, I would always have to do a split view, so that the video would be on one side and then I would do my work on the other, but it just wasn't a great experience. So I think the pip will make this more like a nicer experience. Besides those two features, the rest of them are pretty much not as major. So the other improvements include a redesigned photo app inspired from iOS 10, as well as iTunes for Apple Music. There's now also Apple Pay in Safari, so you can pay for online purchases with Apple Pay using your phone to authorize the transaction. The reason I don't think this is major is because you can already do that with things like PayPal. So there's not really a reason to use Apple Pay over PayPal. It's pretty much easy on either way. Like I said before, auto unlock with Apple Watch, so that it can detect if you're wearing an Apple Watch, and then it could automatically unlock your Mac without you having to do anything. There's also Universal Clipboard, which I'm interested to try out because I want to see if you need to be signed in with the same Apple ID or if it will just detect it based on continuity. I'm not sure, but it's a great way to copy, like let's say you want to copy something on your iPhone, but then paste it onto your computer. Instead of having to send that passage that you copied on your iPhone to your Mac, you can just simply copy on your iPhone and then paste on your Mac. As long as the two devices are near each other, it will work. Universal Clipboard will work, and I think this is actually an amazing feature. I've definitely thought about this before, but Apple really did a good job with that. And also, here's another thing. The main overarching theme for macOS Sierra was pretty much dependency on the cloud and continuity, which is, that's really good. I mean, that's pushing for the future, as I mentioned in my Apple Tech Talk Daily on Google+. Follow me at Apple Tech Talks if you haven't already. The reason why I think this that it's good to depend on the cloud is because that's where the future of storage is going. All your documents, if you use Google Drive or pages, iCloud Pages, then you'll know that everything is uploaded to the cloud, meaning that it doesn't take up your internal SSD storage on your Mac. So although, like, for example, my 5K Retina iMac display has a terabyte of flash storage, I actually put a lot of things in the cloud because that way it doesn't take up space on my device, which is good. And if you have like Google Photos, for example, or if you have iCloud photo library, then you can also do the same thing with uploading your photos and videos to the cloud and not having it locally on device. And there are two benefits to that. One, it doesn't take up, like I said before, it doesn't take up any local space on your device, and two, you can access it from another device that you may not have had photos on it previously. So that's pretty good. So the next thing is your desktop is now copied on Macs. So it's updated in iCloud Drive, and so basically, if you put like a photo on one Mac display, it will show up on your phone's iCloud Drive and on the desktop of another Mac that you may have. So that's pretty cool. Next is optimized storage. Now I know Apple is sort of forcing you in this way to pay for their iCloud services, but like I said, it's pushing for the future, and that's good, whether you like it or not. That's why I'm a supporter of the no headphone jack for the iPhone 7. Alright, let's talk about that later though. Optimized storage is pretty much when you are running low on flash storage on your Mac. It will automatically take older files that may be taking up space in your Mac and uploading that to the cloud. Now, unfortunately, the drawback is that your cloud storage might get filled up pretty easily, and the highest storage option that Apple offers is a terabyte, I believe. So you got to be a little careful. But the thing with this, meaning, is that you get more storage locally on your Mac, which is okay, I guess. The trash now also deletes everything in it after 30 days, which I think is pretty cool, although if you leave something in the trash that you meant to get back to later, that may not be such a welcome change. Another thing, there's some enhanced iMessage, new Apple Music, now tabs for everything, so not just Safari and Finder, but now also Maps, Notes, just tabs for everything. It creates more of a uniformity among the windows. The developer preview came out. It is coming out later and very shortly, and the public beta software program will be in July. I will be making a separate video about whether you should be installing betas or not. That will probably be next time's video. But it's very interesting that Apple has made this yet again available to to developers and the public. So that's pretty much it for macOS Sierra. Pretty solid release. I'm still waiting on new icons though, because I love when they do that. Alright, so I'm not going to be talking about Swift Playground, but we're going to talk about iOS 10 now before I move on to the next thing. Ew. iOS 10 is overwhelming and underwhelming at the same time. Alright, let me start with why it's overwhelming. It's overwhelming because I didn't expect the lock screen to get so many changes. I also didn't expect there to be that many new features, like key features. Okay, the lock screen is, I'll put up a few pictures, but it's good and bad. So it's good in that it looks more futuristic and it looks a little different from the traditional iOS 7 to 9 lock screen, which is good. But it's bad because it can get a little bit cluttered because the notifications on the lock screen are larger. But overall, I'd say it's a pretty good feature to have in iOS 10 to have a new lock screen. It's better than having the same old lock screen. And they enhance 3D Touch a lot in iOS 10. So, like for example, if you have a notification on your phone, you can 3D Touch on that notification and get all these quick actions. It's really cool. Alright, so the next feature after the redesigned lock screen is, I actually didn't finish with the redesigned lock screen. The redesigned lock screen features not only new notifications with interactive 3D Touch integration, but now they also have, so if you swipe to the left, you no longer are confronted with your passcode. If you swipe to the left, you get your Today view, which is basically in iOS 9. If you go into your home screen, it's what, if you swipe to the very left, what you'll see. It's basically like your widgets and news and things like that. But Apple is really taking widgets to the next level here, with like huge cards that you can that are very interactive, which is a welcome change. I praise Apple for doing that, and it's something that's been in Android for years. I'm really happy Apple caught up in that category. And then if you're in the lock screen and you swipe to the right, it's a camera shortcut, and now you can snap photos really quickly. Now, another thing that's very bad about the lock screen now is that to unlock it, instead of swiping to unlock, which is very intuitive, you now have to press the home button, and then you'll be confronted with the passcode, or you'll use Touch ID and you get in. Well, that is a good and bad thing. I mean, it's not as intuitive because if you press the home button, it just doesn't feel as intuitive as just simply swiping to the left on your screen. It's not. I feel like Apple could have done it a different way, like maybe swiping up or swiping down or something like that. Just pressing a physical button just to unlock your device isn't very intuitive. Alright, so the second feature in iOS 10 is a new Home app. So this Home app lets you control so many things in your house. Now I'm a little bit confused. So this will not work with dumb or non-smart home appliances, which is kind of disappointing because I don't really have many of those in my house. But yeah, you can pretty much control your living room, like thermostat, or your bedroom lighting or something like that. It's really interesting. We redesigned Apple Music. This new Apple Music actually now is a lot more like Spotify. I actually do not like the new UI of the Apple Music app. I feel like it feels like it's made for old people because it's like the text is huge, everything's like really, really simple. It feels like it's meant for old people, and I really like the Apple Music UI now. I don't know why it was confusing to some people, but it's pretty much like Spotify now. I do not like it though. Now you can also raise your phone to wake it up instead of having to press the home button, which is a great addition. Next is, so enhanced 3D touch like I talked about before, but in the home screen. So like it says an example on the Apple website. If you 3D touch the weather app, for example, you can get the weather right away. You can add that widget to your Today view. You can also have shortcuts to other places that are included in the weather app. So that's pretty cool. Okay, so Siri got some enhancements too, starting with quick type. There's some contextual predictions. So if you're talking about adults, for example, they will have contextual predictions made for things related to adults, whereas with kids, you will have contextual predictions for kids. That's pretty cool too. News app, I actually kind of like it more. It's more bold and more like an actual traditional newspaper, which is pretty cool. Next is in enhanced photos. Now they really just took Google Photos and threw it into Apple Photos, but yeah, it's a lot like Google Photos now. So what you can do is there's advanced computer vision, which is basically so it can detect people's faces. So you can just search for like someone and it will be able to find their face. Also things in the photo, they can actually detect that now, so now you can find anything that was in the photo that you took. So it's much easier to find photos if you have a lot of them now, which is great. Also, now Photos creates a really nice they automatically create like this small video that includes a lot of your memories in it, which is pretty cool. I think that's one of its best features of Apple Photos. You can also now, if you're switching between two languages constantly, you don't always have to switch the language. Instead, you can just type in two languages at the same time without having to switch. It will autocorrect will recognize you're typing in a certain language and will correct itself to that language, which is pretty cool. And as always, Apple is very, very strict about the privacy. So yeah, everything's very, very secure. Everything's encrypted and local on device. So just yeah, all this on-device intelligence is not shared with Apple. So yeah, again, iOS 10 will be well, right now the developer preview is out, and the public beta should be coming in July, and I will be doing a full review once it comes out. For the next video, I'm debating about whether or not to install the iOS 10 beta on my iPhone 5, which is my secondary iPhone. Leave a comment down below if you really want to see this, and subscribe if you want me to do any sort of videos on iOS 10 before it's released. So yeah, the support is pretty good too. It's available iPhone 5 and earlier. iPad side, it's all iPad Pros, all iPad Airs, and iPad Mini 2 and earlier and later, I mean. And yeah, that's pretty much it. There is no iPad 2, iPad 3 supported. It's just iPad 4 supported, which is kind of a letdown. But you know, I don't want them to mess with the stability on the older devices. And the 6th generation iPod Touch also gets it. So that's pretty cool, isn't it? Alright, next I want to talk about the feature of the iPad Pro and whether this is a PC replacement or not. So in the past, Apple has said that the iPad is their clearest expression or vision of the future of personal computing. Do I agree with that? No, I don't. When I say I don't agree with it, I mean that I don't agree that as of right now it's the future of personal computing. That doesn't mean it doesn't have potential, because it definitely does. So I'm going to be talking to you about why the iPad Pro is not a PC replacement yet, because I have some suggestions for how it can become a PC replacement. So this video is actually overdue. It was meant to come out in like November or December, but I messed up and I didn't get to it, so instead we're doing it now, which, it's still relevant. This topic's still relevant today, and some people still don't understand that the iPad Pro is not a laptop replacement at all. So let me tell you the reasons why it's not, and then I'll have some suggestions to Apple for how to make it a PC replacement. Alright, so the first reason why the iPad Pro is not a PC replacement is because it runs no professional apps. Doesn't mean it can't. It definitely can. There's no Final Cut. There's no, Adobe Premiere, After Effects. There's no Logic Pro. There's no Motion 5. There's none of that on the iPad Pro, meaning that you have to use iMovie, for example. If you want to use this to record and edit videos, you have to use iMovie to edit them, which is a huge letdown because, if it has Pro in its name, you would expect there to be professional applications tailored specifically for the iPad Pro, which isn't this case, unfortunately, at this point. That's the first reason. The second reason is that the iPad Pro has a really, really bad keyboard. It's honestly, I have side by side literally gone typing on a Surface Pro 4 and then gone over to the next table and typed on a iPad Pro, and the experience is day and night. I mean, really, the iPad Pro's keyboard, Apple sells it for $170. You'd expect the quality of it to be good, but the build quality is decent. But I have to say, when you type on it, it doesn't feel comfortable or ergonomic. It just feels very MacBook-like, meaning that the keys don't have much travel. It just doesn't feel comfortable when you're typing. So, and if it's going to be a Pro, if it's going to be a professional device, it should have a professional keyboard. So that's the second reason. The third reason, which is probably the final reason, is the price. The iPad Pro starts at $800, if I'm correct, and it can go up to over $1,000. You can buy, you can buy a Chromebook for about half of the price, and it does pretty much everything. It's just a bit less powerful. But you know what? I just don't see why the iPad Pro costs so much. I mean, it's a great iPad, yes, but why does it start at freaking $800 and go up to like MacBook Pro territory? Like literally, you can buy a MacBook Air at around the same price as the higher end iPad Pros, which is ridiculous because the MacBook Air is obviously much better than the iPad Pro as being your PC replacement. Why not just get a MacBook Air? The iPad Pro just overall is not worth your money. There's not too much that makes it professional. Don't be fooled by its Pro name. Okay, and I'm done dealing out my hate for iPad Pro. Now let's talk about, for Apple, how they can make it better. One way they can make the iPad Pro better is by, like I said before, making professional apps for it. That would make it that would make it so much better for the iPad Pro to have specific apps tailored just for the iPad Pro. So like Final Cut, if you could edit videos in that, because that thing can handle 3 streams of 4K at the same time. That is amazing. If only there was actual professional apps. But yeah, professional apps, make them, Apple. Or at least get developers to do it at WWDC or something like that. There's also another way you can make it better is, like I said before, like the second reason, you could improve the keyboard and make it more ergonomic and stable. Maybe increase the length of it so people have somewhere to rest their hands. If it's going to be a laptop replacement, you need it to be able to fit on your lap. So yeah, that's definitely a plus. Lower the price is my third, because I would say an appropriate price just for the iPad Pro, not including the accessories, is probably like $600 to $700 at the most, because this iPad Pro is not a professional device. You can't charge laptop territory prices for this tablet. and then also reduce the price of the accessories for the iPad Pro, like the smart keyboard, which isn't very smart, and the Apple Pencil, because those two really shouldn't be that much. You can get a stylus with a little bit of higher latency, but still really good for iPad Pro for much less. The Apple Pencil costs $100. I say you should charge it for maybe like $69 or $70 at the most. The smart keyboard, I say that's under $100. So just all these things, are just really crucial to if Apple wants to make this the future of personal computing. And then the final thing I would say to Apple to make it a professional device is make it more portable. Right now, it doesn't feel very portable with the attached keyboard and nowhere intuitive to put the Apple Pencil. With this iPad Pro that weighs, if you get the 12.9-inch version, it weighs like, what was it, like close to 2 pounds. That may not seem like a lot, but it's actually a lot because of the added weight of the keyboard. It's actually a decent amount, and it doesn't feel portable because the keyboard isn't really attached to the iPad Pro in the same way that a keyboard is attached to a laptop. So really, I just really hope that Apple please consider this for the iPad Pro 2, which I hope will be coming this fall. So yeah, that's pretty much what's going on. Alright, now before I go on to the final thing of this video, let's talk about the iPhone 7 top 3 features to expect. Now, with only 3 features, you can expect these to be definite. So number 1 is no headphone jack. Now you've probably already heard this one if you've watched any other video relating to tech, but there is not going to be a headphone jack on the iPhone 7. I am for the future, so that's why I am approving for this headphone jack to be removed. But it's not futuristic if you just get if Apple just ships Lightning earpods with the iPhone 7, because the iPhone 7, if you want it to be futuristic, you don't plug it into the Lightning port. It doesn't make any sense. You would ship Bluetooth headphones with the iPhone 7, which I know it would be a little bit more pricey, but if you're planning on making the future happen and you're not willing to ship Bluetooth headsets, I would just say just scratch the loose headphone jack thing and just keep the headphone jack and ship earpods, wired earpods that fit here. Because the problem is you can't charge and listen to music at the same time if you ship Lightning-enabled earpods, which would be really bad and not futuristic at all. Number 2 is increased performance. Now, we don't know exactly what the performance will be, but yeah, obviously every generation Apple ups the performance. The A9 chip for the iPhone 6s is really good, so it only makes sense to make an A10 chip for the iPhone 7, which will be amazing, speedy, and it will run iOS 10 like a champ. Alright, next, and this is probably the final one, this is number 3. The iPhone 7 will be at one of Apple's last, the iPhone 7 will be Apple's last phone that is modeled after the iPhone 6. Now, I like this design. It's good, right? The problem is that it's not up to par with Samsung's Galaxy Edge lineup, or their Note lineup is beautiful, and they're coming out with a Note 7 this year that should be amazing. Overall, it's not a good enough design, and look at these chunky bezels. I'm not happy that they're sticking with the same design, but as smartphone innovation slows, it's a little bit harder to change the design every year. Not saying they could, they're just saying that I'm waiting for the 2017 iPhone for that to happen. So anyway, they will be sticking with this design. The only hardware differences that you will be able to notice is going to be a slightly thinner profile, possibly no camera bump, which I will be very happy about if that happens. And there are going to be 3 little dots right here as a smart connector. Wireless charging? Alright guys, so finally this is going to be the last thing I talk about in this video, which is iOS 11. They're probably not going to call it that. That'd be a really bad name for the next version of iOS next year, but it's what I'm going to call it for right now, because I don't know what they're going to call it. If they're going to call it iOS X, but then that's not going to line up with the rest of the naming schemes, so I don't know what they're going to call it. But iOS 11 doesn't sound good. Anyway, the reason I'm making this video so early as iOS 10 was just announced is because I'm not fully satisfied with iOS 10. It just doesn't feel like I was really hoping for new icons and a huge UI makeover like they did in iOS 7. I was really hoping for that, and that didn't happen, meaning that they should do it in iOS 11, and if they don't do it, I will be considering switching to Android. But yeah, let's talk about my top 3 wish list for iOS 11. So number 1 is, like I said, a full UI overhaul. I'm talking new icons. The lock screen is okay, but you could refine it a little bit more. Widgets. I just need all that stuff that makes the UI feel alive again, to make it seem more interesting, more vibrant colors. I really need it now. The look of iOS 7 has gotten stale over the last 3 years, so I need something new. The second is customization. They did not offer this in iOS 10, and I am really disappointed, because I thought that they would do it instead of wasting their time with stupid iMessage improvements, because I really don't think it's necessary when so many other apps do the exact same thing. So when I say customization, I know I don't want Apple to overcomplicate things, and I know they won't do that. But like I said before, what they could do is have a little setting toggle with all these customization toggle settings, so you could just change things in your device that would just make it more interesting, and you can customize all sorts of things. For the people who don't want to customize, they just never enable this customization setting. But for those who are really interested in switching things up, which there are a lot of people who do that, I think that's really interesting. Alright, this video is long again. Just me rambling about Apple stuff, but we're on to number 3 now, and this is pretty obvious, a dark mode. You can, if I'm using my phone at night or in the dark, the light colors really blind me, and I feel like I'm dying. Actually, the lowest brightness is still really bright in the dark, and night shift helps a little bit, but a dark theme would be amazing. They already have it in things like iBooks and the WWDC app, and then in iOS 10, there's going to be a dark mode for the Clocks app. But there is no unified dark theme throughout the entire system, which really disappoints me, because I thought Apple would do it. They have that in the Apple TV now, in the new version of tvOS 2. So it really disappoints me Apple hasn't done that yet. They even have it on El Capitan. I mean, why can't they have it? Why can't they have it in iOS? It's in everything but iOS. But I actually have a prediction that they will include this in iOS 3, 10.3 or whatever, because every year when Apple releases new software, they have in the middle of their software cycle, when iOS 10 or whatever version of iOS is about 6 months old, they will have one new feature that's interesting. So in iOS 8 there was Apple Music. In iOS 9 there was Night Shift, which wasn't as major, but it was still relatively major. iOS 10 dark mode, I would be happy if they included that in the mid-cycle of iOS 10's age. Anyway guys, thank you so much for watching. Subscribe, and I will be talking about betas and all that jazz in my next video 2 weeks from now.